The following video has got everything you need to know for game week 1. So in this video, I'm going to go through all the top players for expected points by position. Starting off, of course, with the goalkeepers. And top of the tree for game week 1 is Jason Steele of Brighton. 3.9 expected points. Second, we've got Edison, 3.8. Ramsdale, Onana, Pope, Pickford, Johnson, Allison, Foderingham, Neto, and Leno. Let me know in the comments who you're going with as your captain. I actually think Jason Steele's gone a little bit under the radar, really. I think there's just a bit of confusion as to who's going to start for Brighton. They obviously signed Verbruggen, but it looks like Steele's been playing for them over pre-season. Obviously, Sanchez has just gone to Chelsea. If Steele starts for Brighton, I think he could probably be the best $4.5 million goalkeeper. I mean, with that Luton at home fixture as well, I'm going to give something away a little bit here. But Brighton are the top team for clean sheet odds this game week, alongside Man City. So you can see why he's rated so highly. And the opening 3 for Brighton are really, really good. So, I mean, you could really make a strong argument, to be honest, for Steele being the best of the 4.5s. On now to the defenders, and continuing the Brighton trend, we've got Pervis Estupiñán. He's top of the list, 5.3 expected points, followed by Kieran Trippier. I didn't actually clock that Trippier's 35.2% owned in the game. I don't have him, and I imagine if you're, quite keen on FPL and watching these YouTube videos, I can't imagine you'll have him either. I think the Villa at home fixture, he'll do all right in, but Newcastle after that have just such a tough run of fixtures. I just think you can do better. And 6.5 compared to the value you can get from other defenders, like, well, Estupiñán's got better expected points this game week, and he's, 1.5 million less. I just think there's better value from other defenders, and certainly the likes of Luke Shaw below him as well. Very little between it in terms of expected points, and a whole million in terms of price. Lewis Dunk in there as well. Remains to be seen if he actually starts for Brighton. He's been, not playing in their pre-season fixtures, and I think the manager is trying to save him basically to make sure he's fighting fit for the first game. He is so important to that Brighton team, so yeah, I think the manager's just sparing him really to keep him fit. I like John Stones as an asset, 5.5 million. He does appear, certainly if you look at the Man City forums, it looks like he could have a hamstring injury, so if you have him in your team, just keep a watchful eye out for any news on that injury. Gabriel, I really like him as an option. You can see the little tick there as the players that I've got in my team at the moment. Little giveaway to what my team looks like. But yeah, I really like Gabriel. Top of the defenders all of last season for expected goals. And I think 5 of the 6 teams that Arsenal play, like the opening part of the season, are the 5 worst teams for defending set pieces. And most of Gabriel's goal threat comes from set pieces. So I'd fancy him to nick a couple of goals in the opening few fixtures from a set piece. Ruben Diaz, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Zinchenko, Shah and Saliba close out those defenders. On now to the midfield, and top of the list is Mo Salah. 6 expected points for him with Chelsea away. Second, we've got Saka, 5.6 expected points. For me, I don't have Salah in my team currently, although the draft I was making when these expected points are on the screen, he was in there. I think he could be an option if you want him for captaincy in game week 2. Otherwise, there's 4 million between Saka and Salah and barely any expected points. And Saka has a fantastic start to the season as well. So I personally don't think I can justify the price difference. I was sort of poking around with my team when I got these stats off of Draft Hound. But yeah, I just think there's too much in it in terms of price. But if you think game week 2, Salah has Bournemouth at home, Haaland has Newcastle at home. That's a reasonable week you could captain Mo Salah in if you dare. Third place, we've got Rashford, followed by Odegaard and Bruno Fernandes. These 2 players kind of did the opposite thing to one another last season. Odegaard overperformed his underlying numbers, so this season I'd expect a little dip. Bruno Fernandes created the most chances in the Premier League last year, had 16 expected assists, and only actually managed 9. I feel like his trend is going to go upwards this season, and he's going to have a fantastic year. 8.5 million. I remember a couple of seasons ago he was 12.5 million, so he's dropped 4 million in value in a couple of seasons. At that price, I think he's a shoe-in. You just never have to worry about him playing. He plays every game for 90 minutes. Jack Grealish, I really like him as an option actually. A lot of people favouring Foden, which you can see. But I mean, in terms of minutes, Jack Grealish had that left-hand side for Man City on lock last season, and you got to think he's going to do that again this year. Starting in the Man City front 3, I think he's a really good option, alongside Martinelli as well, who I think probably a little bit better than Grealish. With the Jesus injury, People saying Trossard or Havertz play up front. I don't really know what's going to happen there. One thing I am pretty sure of is it's going to maximise Martinelli's minutes, regardless of who actually plays up front, which I think Martinelli could actually do, to be fair. I just think Martinelli's going to start every game that Jesus is injured for. I don't see how he doesn't fit into that team, so I think he's a great option. The final of the great options in this list, I think, is Heung-min Son. With Kane potentially leaving, or I think he is going to leave, he'll be on the penalties, and his stats actually improve without Kane in the team, so yeah, I feel like he could have a good start. Luis Diaz, Mount and Mitoma. I just don't know if Diaz is going to start for Liverpool. It's such, outside of Salah, it's just a bit of a minefield really in terms of those Liverpool attackers. I think Mason Mount, he could do well, but I just got a feeling he's going to be playing a bit deeper than Bruno Fernandes. And Mitoma, I'm just not massively sold on Mitoma. He doesn't have penalties or free kicks to back him up like other players at his price, the likes of Eze and Mbeumo, who I personally think are better options. And I think teams have found him out a little bit, to be honest, in the way that he plays. I could be wrong, and I'm willing to accept that I might be wrong. And he's owned by 37.3% of the game. So if he does do well and you don't have him, it might hurt your rank a little bit. And finally then, we've got the forwards. Two obviously shining lights in terms of the forward positions. Obviously, it remains to be seen what happens with Harry Kane this week. It looks like this final week before the season starts is crunch time for that deal to Bayern Munich. Haaland is by far and away the top player for expected points this week. 7.6 with that Burnley away game. Owned by 86% of the game, which is just ridiculous. I don't remember a player being as popular as Haaland is this season in previous years. Or maybe Salah after he broke the Premier League or the FPL point scoring record. Maybe he was up there. Let me know in the comments, by the way, if he was. But yeah, 86% ownership is just ridiculous. And he's going to be so heavily captained at the start of the season. And yeah, for me, he's going to be my captain. Harry Kane, he's always a good option if he stays at Spurs. I can't go near him based on the doubt that he's going to be at Spurs, really. And regardless of whether he stays, you've got to think all the transfer saga is going to have an impact on his mentality. And he's not going to be like 100% going into the season if he does stay at Spurs. Darwin Núñez, Isak, Wilson, Ferguson, Solanke, Watkins, Scamacca, Alvarez and Mitrovic close out that list. One thing that I just draw people's attention to is the difference in the top forwards for expected points compared to the midfielders. So just looking Darwin and below, they're all sort of 4-ish points. Going back to the midfielders, they're all sort of over 5 really. So it does show that the midfielders seem to be a bit stronger than the forwards this season. So personally, I'm going 5 in midfield and 2 or even just 1 up front. I think you could genuinely just go with Haaland up front in like a 4-5-1 or something like that. So yeah, those are the top players for expected points. And finally, to round off the video, I'm just going to go through the top teams for clean sheet odds. Usually what I say with these kind of stats, obviously 50% or above, you're more likely than not to get a clean sheet. So that's kind of how it is really. 50-50 is a flip of a coin. Anything more than 50, you're more likely than not. Anything below 50, you're likely to concede, basically. That's what it's saying. Although Man United and Newcastle, I think you could probably back a clean sheet. Anything below 30%, I think you can reasonably expect a team to be conceding 1, maybe 2 goals against their opponent, basically. And yeah, Brighton, Man City, Arsenal, Man United, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Everton and Sheffield United, the best expected defences for this game week, with obviously Brighton, Man City, Arsenal being the top 3. And that's the end of the video. I'm continuing the theme of these that I did last season. I personally, for me even, just looking at the players, top players for expected points for each position, I find it really helpful, and hopefully it was for you too. If you did find it useful, please leave me a like rating on the video and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel just here. I'll have plenty more content coming your way before the Game Week 1 deadline. And I'll see you in the next video.